All right, everyone, we're going to get started here. Oh, looks like we're putting the presentation on. Perfect. I totally thought that pop-up was mine. I'm like, what happened to my computer? I got to get started here. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the ASBA Navajo County meeting. I'm Stephen Chapman, the president of the Arizona School Boards Association Board of Directors and a proud member of the Tolleson Union High School District. And real quick, before I get into some of the pieces for tonight, I just want to say a big thank you to all of you, whether you're school board members, superintendents. This has been a challenging year. There's no sugarcoating what's been going on. And the work that you have been doing to make sure that your students, your community are taken care of has not been easy, but you have risen to the challenge and met it. Whether the state or our federal government have been able to assist you in that effort. On behalf of ASBA, just thank you for everything that you're doing and showing that at the very least, school district government works for our communities. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started here with our program. And I'm hoping that by the time we close this evening, I'm hoping for three things with all of you. One, that you learn more about what ASBA offers you and your board to support your work as community and educational leaders. We are your association. Two, that you see yourself in the work of the organization and how you can become more involved. Involvement by a diversity of our membership is critical to the success of an association like ours. And three, that you have honestly shared your experiences of governing during COVID-19 so that we can not only support you during this time, but assist you in moving forward. Because we have a vacancy in the Navajo County Director position due to the resignation earlier this month of Leroy, who's been awesome and really worked hard for you this year, honestly. My board officer colleague, Tori, and I will be hosting the meeting tonight, and I'm going to turn it right over to her.
Great, thank you, Stephen. As you know, Tori Anderson, and we want to keep up with our tradition of saying the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll please unmute yourself and stand, and Tracy will put a slide on the screen of our amazing flag. Please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance, to the flag,
to the flag,
United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
and justice
for all.
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice
for all. Thank you so much. We just have to keep some of those traditions, especially in the year of COVID. It kind of keeps us a little bit sane, and it's important to our country. So thank you for doing that. So now, if you will please mute yourselves back again, and we will move forward with me. So to the agenda, as you can see on the screen, the agenda is there for you. And we do have a lot going on tonight. So I just want to make sure that you're able to keep up with this. Members of the ASBA staff and the ASB Board of Directors team and I will be sharing lots of information with you tonight, and we're so grateful that you're here to join us. It is important that we do get together as board members. But we're also counting on you to share some important information with us. So each of you during the second Power Town Hall will be asked to participate by answering a couple of questions. And because of technology, we're going to be able to break you out into smaller groups. And so that will automatically happen. You'll click the screen, I'll put you into a group 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you'll have a conversation, and that'll prompt you to come back into the meeting. So we're going to take a minute to go over some of the technology norms. I know many of you have been doing everything by Zoom so far this year, but it's always good to get a refresher so that we're all on the same page. So we're going to give you a few handy tips designed to improve your amazing experience on this ASBA county meeting. So I think that is off to Julie Bacon. Is Julie there?
I'm here, and I'm now that you can hear me. I think I clicked that mute button 25 times before it actually worked. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you. My name is Julie Bacon, and I'm Leadership Development Specialist for the association, also a board member in the Paradise Valley Unified School District. And tonight I am going to be talking with you just to set up the meeting. We're all used to these virtual meetings now, but we thought we'd go over some norms and protocols for online meetings, making sure you have a quiet space. If you can, get everyone else off your Wi-Fi so that your Wi-Fi is working up to speed. Mute your microphone when not talking. If you need to move around, go ahead and turn off your camera and move around. Be present, try not to work on other things, and avoid that cross chat that happens when we are in these meetings. So the next slide will show us just kind of the Zoom control panel and the things that you can do to turn on and off your microphone and your camera. So you see at the bottom there, on the bottom left, you can see when you have a red line through your camera or your microphone, that means you're muted. And we also want you to pay attention to those reactions there in the control panel on the right. We're going to ask you to use that to applaud for people, to give high fives, and all of those things. So, and then finally, the last slide that we'll be talking about is using speaker view. That is something that we think is really helpful to people when you're using your, when you're on Zoom. So if you go to the top there, you can see there's that one rectangle. If you do that, then the only thing that you'll see is the speaker who's speaking, not the millions of faces that are there. So, and that's all I have for right now. And I am going to turn it back to Stephen. Or Tori.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Julie. Still Stephen here, and thank you for those tips. We've all learned so much about how to operate in this digital world lately, and best practices for online meetings is a part of that. And now I'd like to welcome a very important person to the organization, our new executive director, Dr. Sheila Harrison-Williams. Dr. Williams joined ASBA in January of this year after retiring from a long and successful career as an educator and administrator in Illinois. And what a moment she has stepped into, a certainly interesting virtual world. So Dr. Williams is leading without missing a beat and working with staff on board to navigate, grow, and innovate in circumstances unlike we've seen before. Tonight, she'll tell us more about what's new at ASBA and how our association is working for us. Dr. Williams?
Can you hear me now? Stephen, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I'm so sorry about that. I forgot to unmute myself. Thank you so much for that great introduction, President Stephen Chapman. It is so great to be here with you tonight, but I must say, I wish I was actually there in Navajo County with you this evening. When I joined ASBA, everyone told me how much fun and how much I would appreciate and enjoy seeing this beautiful state and meeting all the outstanding board members during the county meetings. And I tell you, I'm looking forward to this next year. I've met many of you, and I'm sure the trips around the state are going to be much sweeter when I'm there in person with you next year. As Stephen said, it's been quite an interesting 9 months for me, but I'm so proud of the work we're doing as your association. Now, of course, there's always room for improvement, and this fall, we've asked you to tell us how we're doing through a member survey. This is your association, and we need your input to make ASBA everything you need and want it to be. You should have received an invitation to complete the survey a couple of weeks ago. If you've already completed the survey, thank you. If not, please, please, please complete it and send it back to us right away. We take this very seriously, and we want to be the right association and the best association for you. We greatly appreciate the feedback from all of you who attended the virtual ASBA Law Conference last month. And I heard this was a top-notch conference, and it really was fantastic. I can't wait until I can experience it in person as well. Between now and the end of the year, we've got 2 more major virtual events, and we're hoping to see all of you there. The first is the new board members orientation on December 2nd. Mark it down. Please keep in mind that while this is designed for newly elected or appointed school board members, it is open to all board members and superintendents as well. And the annual conference, our favorite time of the year. We think you're going to love how we're transforming this event into a virtual format. We've got 2 great keynote speakers, 15 breakout sessions, and a special guest appearance by Ana Maria Chavez, the amazing Arizonan who was selected to lead the National School Boards Association as its executive director and CEO this past June. The last 3 items on this slide are related to ASBA's strategic goals that are guiding us as we work to carry out our mission every day and to achieve the vision of having the best schools in every Arizona community. Just as strategic planning is essential for your boards to reach its goals and serve your community at the highest levels, it's essential for an association like ASBA as well. As the saying goes, a dream without a plan is just a wish. And if you attended the Boats or Summer Leadership Institute this year, you heard about the importance of strategic planning and what it entails. You also heard how important it is to communicate with those that you serve about the district's strategic goals and the progress you're making toward those goals. It is my privilege to share with you this evening more about ASBA's 3 focus areas in our strategic plan, developed by our board of directors, and how our staff and board are bringing it to life as we carry out the mission of the association. You see them here on the screen. Well, you should see them on the screen. As I said earlier, these goals are guiding us as we work to carry out our mission every day and achieve the vision of having the best schools in every Arizona community. Members of our team will be talking more about each of these goals this evening, but what you will find, and listen carefully, because what you will find or what you will see is that these goals touch every aspect of the work that we do, including all aspects of the services we provide to you, our members. Turning it over to Tracy.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison Williams. Hi, everybody. I'm Tracy Benson. I'm Associate Executive Director with ASBA, and I have the opportunity to talk to you tonight about our goal related to leadership. And it's all about supporting and cultivating board effectiveness. So you see a bunch of fascinating facts, did you knows, up there on the screen, and I'm not going to read them all to you, but I want to highlight a couple of them. Because it really has to do with that whole idea of meeting boards where they are and making sure that every board who needs to participate and wants to participate in professional development, and every individual who does has the opportunity to do that. Something we're really proud of, and frankly, we had a great time doing this past spring, was in April and May, staff divvied up all the districts around Arizona and made personal phone calls to superintendents and board presidents. And in most districts, we got a hold of at least one or the other. And part of it was just to check in and see how you're doing in this, era of COVID as it was first starting out. But the other piece of it was really to check in and find out how we could serve you better, how we could help you meet your particular governance needs, which became really unique in the time of COVID. And so we really appreciated talking with you all and have been able to incorporate a lot of the things you told us into that professional development that we've been offering since March, related to COVID and not related to COVID. And one of the ways that we feel like we're serving you all better right now is through webinars. We'd made a big commitment to webinars about a year ago, not knowing that we were going to be so virtual in the year 2020. But over the past year, we've provided 32 hours of webinar content, which is the equivalent of about 4 full days of a regular conference. And what we're learning from people who are taking our member survey is that they have been very well received, and people really enjoy being able to access the content live like we're doing right now, but also sort of at your leisure when you have the time and the opportunity to do it. Something else that's important to know that I wanted to share is when COVID is over, and we know it will be, we have made a commitment to offering some of our key trainings, for example, bolts and new board member orientation in more locations around the state, so that folks won't have to travel to Phoenix and Tucson to get this important training. And, you know, for you up in Navajo County, we know it's a huge commitment and investment of your time when we're asking you to come to us for these trainings. So we're really pleased to say that we're committed to be coming to you more frequently with this in the year ahead. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Chris Thomas, to talk about our advocacy goal.
Thanks, Tracy. We've also been very active in regards to advocating for you in various arenas. When COVID hit in late February, early March, one of the things we had to do is really think on the fly and get input from our districts about what did they need out of the legislature in terms of flexibility, in terms of funding, in terms of mostly it was the funding thing, which is everybody was really concerned with this next year about how would we be affected by a loss of enrollment. And while we didn't get what we pushed for, which was to go back to prior year funding, at least temporarily, because we still think that's the most stable way to do it, we fought that battle and ended up going from a 95% funding threshold to a 98% for funding threshold for virtual learning experiences. Now, if you're doing hybrid or you're doing in person, there's no difference. You're still going to be funded for all those days. So, but that was a conversation that we had with the legislature and got some flexibility for you. The other thing that we really did work for is to give you the tools that you would need to make these really difficult decisions. Consistent science-based net metrics for making the decision to reopen, and also to have some information about how best to reopen. That was really important because it's hard to make these decisions without as good information as you can get. We additionally have been representing you on task force around the state. Both Chris Cotterman and Tracy Benson served on Arizona Department of Education task force with regard to reopening, with regard to the guidelines that were published by ADE, as well as the school safety task force, which has been created. And a special note on that, the school safety task force, we used your comments at last year's county meetings to inform that discussion. And you will see when that report comes out that many of those recommendations and many of the comments that we received are reflected in there. So it was really important. Another thing that just happened, there was a big story in the Arizona AZ Central yesterday about the school facility board lack of not doing inspections of schools, particularly for things like HVAC units. And under the the law that came out of Students First, they're required to do that, and that's particularly important in this era of COVID. Now, we monitored that that story. We helped shape that story by teeing up qualified individuals to speak on that issue, as well as working with our attorneys that are part of the capital lawsuit to help with that story. So we're doing a lot of things. Tracy already mentioned the webinars, representing you in the media. AZ Ed News is a great resource and often serves as a resource for other media when they're looking for stories to write about Arizona education. And one of the other things we do a lot, and this kind of gets missed sometimes, is we work really closely with our sister organizations, the ASBO, the school business officials, ASA, the Arizona School Administrators, the Arizona Education Association. You can go down the list: the Arizona School Personnel Administrators Association, the CTEAZ, which represents all the career and technical education districts out there. So we work together with them, serve as a resource to them, and are able to cover the state in in many ways, so that we're getting the best information to you, and we're reflecting the perspective of school board governance with those individuals. Just so you know, when ASBA is in the room, you are in the room, and we are always looking for those opportunities to increase and amplify your voice in these important discussions at this really important time.
You need to unmute yourself, Tracy.
Thank you. Now I want to talk about our equity goal. And something I think that is really important to know is that our ASBA Board of Directors has made equity a priority, not just a priority, but a strategic goal for the past 4 years. And I know you've seen it in the programming that we've brought forward, starting with the equity event back in 2015. We're going on our 7th year for that. But the way equity is now incorporated 365 days a year into our work, whether it's through training, through our advocacy, or even lenses that we're talking about through which you can view your policy. And why do we do this? Why are we focused so much on equity? Because we know that this work has to start with the board and has to have a commitment from the board. And so, you know, I'm sure have seen us talking about Equity 365, and that's really what we believe this is. And it's become part of our DNA, part of our life and programming at ASBA. We're really excited about some new equity programming that we have. It's actually a curriculum. And we've taken our Leading for Equity framework and transformed it and amplified it with a Leading for Equity workbook. And we are offering virtual trainings at this point, utilizing that workbook, really focused on that framework that has to do with the 5 different ways boards can really engage with equity work. And shameless promotion, you're the first county that I've had the opportunity to do this with, but Navajo County, please consider attending the first training for school board members on the Leading for Equity workbook, November 9th and the 10th. Information for registering that is on our website, but we're really very excited about that and think it's going to be a great way for individual board members to dig more deeply into their own thoughts in pursuit of equity, but also board teams to really come together and get behind this work. Because you are the ones, you board members are the ones who are going to make this happen in your districts and in your community. And hopefully we'll be watching a video about that. Well, let me tell you this. If this video worked, this is what it would say. It would say that in every single district, no matter if you're on the Navajo Nation or you are along the border in Southern Arizona or you are in suburban Metro Phoenix and you're on a school board, equity is your business. There are gaps in opportunity and achievement in every single one of our districts. And it's really up to board members like you to be the one to lead your community and lead your superintendent and lead the educators in your schools on this journey. And we are your partner in that work and are really excited about the opportunities around that in the year ahead. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Harrison Williams. Who also might need to unmute.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Tracy. I apologize for that. Thank you. And you did an excellent job on recreating that video. I'm sorry they didn't get a chance to see or hear it because it's absolutely brilliant. Whoever did it, they did a great job. But this is the work that's underway. And this is the work that you've asked us to do. This is the work that makes ASBA your association. This is the work that we do together for the students of Arizona to bring about the best schools in every Arizona community. And now it's time to celebrate. Let's recognize some accomplishments of the school board members of Navajo County. Now let's bring back Tori Anderson along with Julie Bacon. Thank you so much for your attention. Tori and Julie.
All right, thanks, Dr. Harrison Williams. I appreciate that. And I do really appreciate working with you. Thank you. All right, let's celebrate. We've had, many of you have completed many CEUs and have done some training with ASBA, and we want to acknowledge that because that makes your board more effective and it actually helps your student achievement. So thank you for that. So before we talk about that, and before we tell you who gets those awards, I'm going to let Julie tell you how many hours and the hard work that has gone into each one of these awards. So go ahead, Julie.
Thanks, Tori. So our Academy of Board Development is our recognition program for school board members who are committed to continuing their learning throughout their service on school board. And we believe obviously deeply in that professional development for board members. 1 hour of training equals 1 CEU or continuing education unit. And there are a variety of different levels from just one day of training to hundreds and hundreds of hours of training that we have recognition for in our Academy of Board Development. And Dr. Harrison Williams mentioned new board member orientation earlier, and that is the gateway to getting to be part of the recognition program with ASBA. So if you have not yet gone to new board member orientation, even if you're a board member who's been on a board for 8 years, you still can come this December. And we're offering it on December 2nd, and then a second day also on December 11th. So that's the Board Academy of Board Development. And I'm going to give it back to Tori to talk about the winners.
All right, thanks, Julie. Okay, so the first group is Certificate of Boardsmanship. And you can see the names on the screen, but I think, I'm going to go ahead and read them because I think it's important that you get the acknowledgement that you deserve. You've worked hard for this, and thank you for being with us. So Sharon Greenwood, Joey Harnett, and Mark Little are Certificate of Boardsmanship. And then we have our Associate of Boardsmanship, which is Geraldine Begay, Tony Mina, and Iris Yesit. Let me know if I said that right. Please, Iris, I don't like not getting it right. So make sure you use your icons down below. You can clap, you can give them a thumbs up, but make sure we celebrate in our own way and let them know how amazing it is and how much we appreciate the training and the time that they put into being an effective board member, because that's the difference. So all of those that got their awards tonight, your awards will be mailed to you. So make sure you look for those in the mail. So the next group is the Academy of Board Development. And we have for the Master of Boardsmanship, Marilee Irving. And then we have a Copper Star pin. So you'll get your pin. So you make sure you wear it to all the conferences when we're finally in person. That's what you have to do. Is Anderson Jones. And a turquoise star goes to Lita Dixon and Eugene Kirk. So thank you so much for getting the training and being the awesome board members that we know that you are, and for caring about your district enough to continue that training. Now we have the total board winners, and it goes to Winslow Unified School District. And this is a pretty incredible feat for board members to be dedicated that the entire board gets the award. So I just want to let you know that it is a very special CEU-based award, and it shows commitment by the full board to continuously improve the effectiveness of their training. Congratulations to Winslow Unified School District for exemplifying this commitment. And congratulations again to all of those who have put the time in to become effective board members and aim for high student achievement in your districts. Thank you. Now I am going to turn it back to our president, Stephen Chapman. Take it away, Stephen.
Thank you, Tori. Congratulations to everyone who received an award tonight, or later in the mail, I guess, technically. As you know, ASB is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. As an association, we're a little different than a typical nonprofit. Not only do we have people we serve, which is you, we have members, your boards, who help determine how we serve you. So you, ASBA members, are both our customers and our owners. Dr. Harrison Williams and members of her team gave you a glimpse into the kinds of strategic services we are providing. And now me and Tori will walk you through our roles as owners. Before we get into details, I want to make sure everyone understands that ASBA members are actually the districts. So I am not a member, but the Tolleson Union High School District, where I'm a governing board member, is the member. Tonight, we'll talk about the ways that my board and yours, tonight we'll talk about the ways my board and yours get involved and participate in the governance and the direction of ASBA, and also how you as an individual school board member can play a role. So you shape our governing document. ASBA is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Our bylaws are the main governing document of ASBA. They supplement the rules already defined by the state corporation code. They guide how we run, and our bylaws require member boards to vote to approve any changes. Every member board has the opportunity to submit suggested changes to our bylaws, and every member board also should be voting on those amendments to the bylaws that move forward. And then finally for me, our Delegate Assembly. You shape our political agenda, which determines how we lobby at the legislature, what court cases we get involved with or initiate, and even the focus of content of our events, webinars, and publications like AZ Ed News. Every board has an opportunity to submit items to our legislative committee for consideration to be included as the draft political agenda. And each fall, we ask every member board to send a delegate to represent them in voting on the final political agenda at our Delegate Assembly, which actually just happened this Saturday. And I believe you can still go check out the video on YouTube if you're interested in how the ASBA sausage gets made. If you have not registered to attend our Delegate Assembly, which I should have included because again, I just mentioned we did our Delegate Assembly, you would have already done that. But every district, no matter how big or small, has the same voting power. And this is critical to the way that we make your board, you make your board's voice heard. And now I will turn it back over to Tori.
So your board also helps shape ASBA's core beliefs. And you also help decide who's going to serve on the executive committee and as your director. So when you send a delegate to vote, you really are voting to move this association forward. So thank you if you were there at the Delegate Assembly on Saturday. It's an important, and I thought it went pretty well for being online. You know, I think it was very, very well done. So thank you to staff who made that happen through the magic of technology. Member board also has 17 members that serve as the ASBA Board of Directors. So there's one from each county, and you do have an election tonight. The only counties that have two would be Pima County and Maricopa County, and they have two based on their student population. So the boards in each county elect your own county director, which, like I said before, you will do tonight, and that's a 2-year term. Now, how do you get involved as an individual board member? There's a lot you can do. I find it extremely fascinating because I realize the more that I learn, the more I don't know. So I want to encourage you to take part in one of these committees because we need you to be the voice for your students and for your teachers and all of your community. So I hope that you'll take an opportunity to sign up. We're going to drop a link in the chat box. You can click on that link and you can sign up for one of these committees. But let me give you a brief overview of what each one of these committees does. I think it's pretty easy, but of course I've been a part of it. And if you haven't, I strongly encourage you to do so. It's a great way to learn how you can be an even more effective board member in your community. So the governance committee, they provide ASBA's governance procedures and looks at our policies, our internal policies, and they may make recommendations to the board. The governance committee meets 1 or 2 times a year. It's a small committee, but it is a great way to kind of get to know the ins and outs of what turns the wheels of ASBA. And then you have the Budget and Finance Oversight Committee, which I did have the honor and pleasure of being able to chair this year. And that you will get together about once a year. This year we did twice, obviously virtually, but you get to provide insight on ASBA's budget and see how it goes. And then again, you make a recommendation to the board of directors, and the board of directors looks at that and accepts that recommendation. So if you're interested in money, that might be the one for you. You also on the Finance and Budget Committee will be a part in recognizing who gets to audit our 990 reports. And that's an important part of our nonprofit status. And so I do take it very seriously, and I hope that you'll take the opportunity to sign up for that. The other one, which I love, and I think this is what's going to change the world in public education, is the Legislative Committee. And I've been able to serve on that committee, not only as a member, but also as the chairperson. And they are the ones that make a recommendation to the Delegate Assembly. And that is what we vote on for what we're going to present to the legislature in the next session. That committee usually meets about twice a year. You look over what's been done. Every single district puts forth what they think should be on the legislative agenda. And then the legislative committee picks the priorities and decides which area they go into. So I think that if you're interested in knowing what the legislature does and how we can push forward public education and financing public education, that would be the committee for you. And I hope that you take the time to do that. It's a great experience. And then we also have something new, which again, I'm very proud of, is the Equity Committee. And it's a resource to the boards of directors, providing thoughtful leadership as requested on topics related to ASBA's continuing growth and movement in equity, and to make sure that our districts are showing the equity that is among them and making sure that we are training to have equity in all of our schools. The next one is the Nominating Committee. The Nominating Committee is the group that will get together and they look over the applications for those who have put in for the Executive Committee. So you'll look at those applications and then you'll make recommendations to, again, the Board of the Directors. And then also when they all come forward to the annual meeting, you'll know that those came from the Nominating Committee. Everybody does put in an application. And it does take a lot of reading, but if you're interested in shaping the leadership for ASBA, that might be the one for you. And next, we have the Credentials Committee. This committee serves usually at our Delegate Assembly to make sure that everybody is logged in, that they've got their credentials, and they are really with the district that they say they are. And then again, at our business meeting, which will take place in December. And that's where we do the voting for any bylaw changes and also for again, your new leadership on the Executive Committee. And so that Credentials Committee checks those people in and makes sure that everybody is valid and in a voting situation, and that the clickers work. That's always an important one. This year it will be virtual. I look forward to hopefully seeing you soon at a live conference, but this time we will do it virtually, but it's going to be phenomenal. And I hope that you'll check in for that. So again, if you're interested in any of these committees, and I hope you are, because we need you, please click on the link in the chat box, download the information, and put in your name, because I would love to serve with you in the next year on one of these committees. So please take time to do that. We need you. Now, as an individual member, we also want to encourage you to take part in one of our alliances. So if you have students, which I know you do, that are Hispanic or Native American, I would encourage you to take part in our Hispanic and Native American caucus. It's important. It doesn't cost anything, but again, you're able to make some recommendations to the Board of Directors on how ASBA can further that path and that equity within the caucus and what school districts can do. Then we also have, it's new this year, and Kenny Denny is the president of the ASBA Rural Alliance. So if you have students that are in a rural area, which we all do, you know, in Maricopa, where I'm from, Maricopa USD, we do have rural, and we have a little bit of urban, but mostly rural. But I would encourage you to be a part of that alliance. And again, the membership forms for these alliances will be in the chat box below. And last, we have our Black Alliance. Lindsay Love is the president of that one right now. And you know what? She's doing a phenomenal job. And I love seeing all of these caucuses and alliances come together, because it's important that we address the needs of all of our students and that we hear from those students. And so I hope that you will take the opportunity to log on and join one of these alliances and the caucus, because it is important. It's important to our students. So please take the time to do that. These groups provide great opportunities to network, to share what's going on in your district, how you're dealing with some of the opportunities that our demographics offer us. And I like getting information from other districts on how the cultures are mixing and what else do I need to do as a board member to acknowledge and address the needs of all of the different diversity and, most importantly, cultures that come through our school doors. So again, registration forms for those are in the chat box. And I hope that you'll take the opportunity to be a part of that. The next piece is I want to show you the slide on how our county directors and what they are. And so here's all the counties. And as you can see, Maricopa County and Pima County have 2 because of their population. Each one of these serves a 2-year term. And I hope that several of you have been in the mix for tonight's election, because it's a great opportunity to get to mix, to get to learn, and to get to be a part of the change and what we're going to bring forward for the public education. So they do serve, the officers, as you can see, we serve 1-year terms. So every year we're back if we're going to run, and we put our application in, and that's where the entire delegates will vote on who the next executive committee will be. But if you're interested, I encourage you, because the applications for the executive committee are open now. You can go to the ASBA website. I do know that ASBA sent, should have received an email from Heidi Otoro, and she sent the information for those executive positions. Take a look at it, because I think that you would find it very, very interesting. And again, it's a way to grow as a board member, and it's a way to contribute on a bigger scale and bring that back to your district. So I hope that you will take the time to fill those forms out. Again, it's a great opportunity. And now it's your turn for your county to elect your county director. So Stephen, I think that's you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. As you know, Leroy resigned earlier a month ago as county director. His term was through December 2021. Tonight, you'll be selecting an individual to serve as your county director for the remainder of his term. And first, I just, again, want to say thank you to Leroy for all the work you've done, for the voice that you provided during our board meetings, and still provide through the HNIC. It's been fun working with you, and I hope to work with you again in the future. And so for our candidates, we did require that anyone who wanted to run for this seat notify ASBA 1 week prior to this meeting. And one individual did so, and that is Arlen Begay from Cedar Unified School District. All right, and because there's a single candidate, we will do a vote of acclamation, and I will ask you, if you're a delegate, in a moment to unmute yourself and either vote yes or no. But first, I just want to verify, I'm not seeing Arlen on the Zoom right now.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, are you?
I'm here.
Oh, perfect. So before we did the vote, I just wanted to allow you to introduce yourself and share with the members why you're interested in serving as a county director, and I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that.
Okay. So my name is Jara Lynn Begay, and Begay is actually spelled with an E at the end. But I live in Jettato, which is a part of Cedar Unified School District. And I've been a board member there for 3 years, and I've served as the board clerk for almost a year now. I'm half White Mountain Apache, and I'm half Navajo. And I look forward to serving and working with the ASBA leadership team and the schools that are represented within Navajo County. I definitely want to be a positive reflection of what ASBA represents and be effective in representing ASBA. I also definitely want to be a voice for the schools that are within Navajo County. I'd like to take your suggestions and your concerns and ideas and bring those things to the table, things that are involving policy and just the decisions that are being made for our students within our county. And especially with everything going on with COVID, you know, there's so many decisions that need to be made, and I want to be there to be that voice to advocate and to, again, just bring your suggestions to the table. And that's all I want to do is serve the county and serve the schools that are within the county.
Thank you, Darlene. So if you are a delegate for Navajo County this year, I'd like to ask you to unmute yourself for just a moment. And I am going to ask all those in favor of supporting Darlene by acclamation to please vote aye now.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Sorry. All right. Any opposed? All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, voters, and congratulations, Charlene. We look forward to working with you starting this December. I will ask those delegates to remute themselves. And real quick, before I turn it back over to Julie, I just want to introduce a special guest who joined us real quick before we move on, and that is the Navajo County Superintendent. And we have Jalen Gerlich with us, and we'll be able to participate in our town hall here. So thank you for joining us, Superintendent. We appreciate your support and your partnership in Navajo County. And I will be turning this back over to Julie to start the town hall.
Okay, thanks so much, Stephen and Tori. That was a great explanation of all the ways that everyone can be involved as board members. So the Power Town Hall that we're going to be doing this evening is the top 3 governance challenges with COVID-19. As Stephen noted in the beginning, we know that there are the boards, superintendents, whole districts, teachers, everyone is challenged right now dealing with everything that we have to address with the pandemic. So we wanted to give you an opportunity to have some time to talk with one another about that and to maybe commiserate a little bit about how hard it is right now being on a board. So Tracy, if you could move us to the slide that talks about the breakout rooms, that would be great. So we have 2 questions that we'd like to talk to you about in the breakout room. And we're going to talk first about the breakout rooms, and then we'll go to the questions. So you'll see a prompt on your screen like this. They want you to, it will ask you to join a breakout room. Just click that join, that blue join button. Once you get into that breakout room, if you would have someone just take notes about the things that you're talking about so that we can have a share out later on when we all come back together, that would be great. We'll set a timer and you'll have about 5 minutes to talk about each of the questions that we're going to show you. And remember that try to give everyone in the room an opportunity to contribute to the conversation. As you discuss the question, if the scribe would write down some of the key takeaways and then share it in the chat box when we come all back together. And this says we're going to do 10 minutes, but we're a little bit behind the schedule. We're not quite where we thought we would be. So we are going to do it for 5 minutes. So the first question that we want you to talk about is, as an individual board member, what has been most challenging or difficult during this time? And this is how you have dealt with it personally. Because I've been on a board for 10 years, and this is by far the most difficult year of all 10 of those years. There have been so many things that you've had to consider. And I think the thing that's been most difficult for me is people are really upset, and they're not all being nice about it. And so that's just been hard for me to take those really harsh negative comments that we're getting from community members and parents and students and teachers and everyone involved, and kind of deal with it as a person and as an individual. So I think that we might be ready to go into the breakout rooms. Are we ready to go, Tracy?
Give me just 1 minute, well, less than 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. I'll give you less than 30. I'll give you 30 seconds, less than a minute. The other thing that I think has been, and the next question that we'll talk about is what's been difficult as a district. So try to stay away from that topic and kind of just focus in on what's been hard for you as an individual board member. And it looks like your breakout rooms are up there. So go ahead and join, and we'll see you back in 5 minutes. Hey, Lita, we just have about a minute left. Do you want to just stay here with us? Well, it looks like we're all coming back together. And those of you who wrote the notes in your breakout session, don't forget to go ahead and type that in the chat. What we'd like to do is just spend a minute or two letting you share some of the things that you discussed in your breakout session. So either someone can volunteer or I will volunteer you that you're going to be participating. So who would like to do that?
Don't be shy. I've seen her do it many times.
Many times. Okay. Candy, do you mind sharing what you were talking about in your breakout room?
Okay, yeah, this is Candy, White River Unified School District. I am the board president. And what I told the group was that my challenge was that I was under quarantine for back-to-back, so 21 days. And during that time, when we had board meetings, I called in or either was present virtually. And so that was really stressful for me. Our board, we continued to have in-person board meetings, and I just, it's not the same as being there in person amongst the rest of my fellow board members. So that was something that was really stressful for me.
Great, thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to share? Just raise your hand or unmute yourself. I'm going to call on one more person. So Jeremy, do you mind telling us any challenges you might have had?
Hello, everybody. I'm having a lot of technical difficulties at this time. So if I lose you off the screen, please forgive me. I was trying to chat with my breakout session group, and I was just letting them know that I'm north of I-40 on the Navajo Nation, and we have been challenged with slow internet services compared to like Phoenix, where it's probably pretty fast, whether it's satellite, whether it's landline, whatever it may be. It's just been so slow for us. Just trying to be able to get a connection to communicate with as far as schooling goes for our kids. being kicked off Zoom 4, 5, 6 times, trying to log back in. I know that has been a challenge. Is probably the internet services for us, and that's what I want to share just really quick. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jeremy. That certainly is not the first time we've heard that from rural and remote school districts. So thanks to both of you for sharing. And if you could go ahead and type that information in the chat, that would be great. And then the next question that we're going to talk about is, as a district, what has been the most challenging thing for you to deal with? So this is the district as a whole, what's been most challenging. And, part of what is so great about these questions is they really help us as an organization inform some of the work that we're doing down at the state capitol and with the federal government. So these are things that will really help us and our government relations team as we move forward. So we're going to go ahead and put you into breakout rooms, and we'll do another 5 minutes of talking about what, as a district, has been the most challenging thing during COVID for you. So momentarily, you'll see that breakout room start.
Tracy, I just saw your text. What did you mean?
I meant, I was thinking maybe at this point, you could break in and say, hey, we just want to recognize in one of our groups, we have a special guest, Jalen Gerlich, Navajo County Superintendent of Schools, or something like that. Welcome.
I welcomed her after the election, or the.
I didn't hear that.
Oh.
I must have been, I don't know, sleeping? No, that wasn't it. I don't know what it was. Okay, great. Never mind.
I can see some of you coming back in. Welcome back. I think we might have everyone back with us. Tracy, can you tell if we still have people in the breakout rooms?
You are good to go.
Okay, good. That's what I thought. So for what was hard as a district, that's something that we wanted to get some information on too. And remember, those of you who are scribing, go ahead and chat it in the, put it in the chat box for us so we can collect all that. Does someone want to volunteer this time instead of me telling you you're going to volunteer? Just raise your hand like that. Okay, thank you, Kenny.
I'll unmute myself. So in the group that I was with, it's the same group. One thing came up was morale within staff and boards. People not feeling comfortable to talk openly, and that's always been my experience. That's always a thing that causes more disaster and more trouble when folks aren't able to communicate openly and not feel like there's some reprisal coming. The other thing was being information deprived. Tracy and I have been talking about some of these things, and that's because of the internet, as we talked about earlier. Boards needed information, and because they're not able to get information, and they were relying on information coming from ASBA, not having the information was making it more difficult for them to have conversations and know what to do, what decisions to make. So yeah, we on the Rural Alliance, we've heard this several times, and we just know that it's becoming a really big issue if we're going to continue the way we are on Zoom or internet. Something has to happen.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much. I think one of the things in my district is we've never seen such divisive behavior from groups in the district. Parent groups who are just, it's been very divisive. So I think that's something that other boards have dealt with. Does anyone else want to add anything? Okay, I'm not going to force anybody. So what I'm going to do now is hand it over. Thank you all for participating, and thanks for the work that you're doing. And I'm going to hand it now to Lee Jensen, and she's going to talk with us about policy and legislative stuff. Lee?
Thanks, Julie. Hi, it is great to virtually hear from you all. I definitely wish we could be there in person, see some of that gorgeous fall weather up in Navajo County. But this has been a crazy year in a lot of ways, only one of which being the legislative schedule. Next slide, please. So due to COVID, the legislators stopped conducting business at the end of March, which is about halfway through the typical legislative calendar, which means only a handful of education-related bills became law. Some of that was good news, of course, but some of those we were really sad to see not make it over the finish line, one of which was Senate Bill 1048, which created a disciplinary framework for non-certificated school employees, much like what's currently used for teachers, as well as Senate Bill 1060, which increased funding for special education. So some of those we're hoping will come back in 2021, as well as we expect to be pretty busy with legislation related to the COVID response, based on feedback from all of you guys out in the field doing the heavy lifting this year in your districts. We had our virtual Delegate Assembly this Saturday and adopted a special section to the 2021 agenda specifically related to COVID and what you guys need from us. So be on the lookout for that document. We will send it out to the full membership later this week so you guys can see what legislative priorities we'll be focusing on, and we can get some feedback on that if needed. We'd love to hear from you guys about that. Next slide, please. So I don't know if any of you have heard or if you're living blissfully under a rock where political ads do not reach, but this is an election year. It is November 3rd, and if you're registered to vote, you have until October 23rd to request a ballot by mail if you'd like to vote from home this year. So just a few more days to get that done. And as you've probably heard, folks are encouraged to return the ballot as early as possible this year due to the influx of people taking advantage of the option to vote by mail. It might take a little longer to process, and it will be for sure at least a couple of days before we have solid election results. So nothing weird is happening. If it's going to take a few extra days longer, we won't see the race being called at 9 p.m. like we usually do. It's just lots of people voting from home to stay safe. So it'll take a little longer to process. The two big things that we're paying attention to in ASBA GR world are the state legislative races as well as Proposition 208. Next slide, please. So in Arizona, there are 30 legislative districts, and each one has 1 senator and 2 representatives. Legislators are elected for 2-year terms, and they're all up for re-election at the same time. So there's no staggering like there is on the federal level. Out here in Navajo County, you guys are in legislative districts 6 and 7. In LD6, you have an open Senate seat. The incumbent, Sylvia Allen, who was chair of the Senate Education Committee, she's from Republican from Snowflake. She lost her primary election to a woman named Wendy Rogers, and Wendy has a Democratic challenger named Felicia French, who also ran for that seat in 2018 and came really close to winning. So that will be an interesting race to watch, I think. As far as the House, Walt Blackman, who's the Republican incumbent, is running to keep his seat. And Brenda Barton, who's a Republican who has served in the legislature on and off for years. She took the last session off, but I think she's been serving since about 2010 or so. She's running for an open House seat. And then Coral Evans, a Democrat who is the mayor of Flagstaff, is running, as well as an independent named Art Babbitt. And then in LD7, all 3 of the Democratic incumbents are running to keep their seats. So you have James Sita Peshlikai in the Senate and Myron Tosi and Orlando Teller in the House. Mr. Tosi is actually a school board member, so he's one of our members as well. We always love to have him at our events. And 2 Republicans are running for those House seats named Jim Parks and David Peelman. So that's who's on your ballot. If you requested to receive it by mail, hopefully you have already. And again, put it in your mailboxes as quick as possible. Next slide, please. And then as far as initiatives go, you probably heard by now that Invest in Ed, now known as Prop 208, made it on the ballot. They attempted for the first time back in 2018, and the Supreme Court ruled that that ballot language was inaccurate or incomplete, and so it was tossed off the ballot. That actually happened again this year. The Maricopa County Superior Court ruled that the 100-word summary provided by the campaign was missing important information, but the campaign appealed, and the Arizona Supreme Court this time overturned that ruling, and it will be on the ballot in November. So what's being proposed is an income tax surcharge for folks making over $250,000 a year or $500,000 for married couples. This would bring their tax rate up to 8% from the current 4.5%. The campaign estimates this would generate about $940 million a year to be distributed to districts and charter schools. Some legislative staff thinks it will be closer to about $850 million a year, So between those, we could expect, I suppose, and of course, it would go up and down as income tax revenue does. Most of that revenue would go to salaries, as you'll see on the screen, but it also provides support for CTE programs and mentoring programs to help promote retention of new teachers, as well as a small amount for the Arizona Teachers Academy, which is run by the Board of Regents to increase scholarships. I have the specifics on all of those pots and how they're defined if you're curious, but in particular, that money earmarked for CTE has a pretty generous list of allowable uses, including hiring counselors, expanding AP or IB classes, tutoring, all sorts of things. And just as a note, as an association, we can't comment one way or the other as far as support of Prop 208 because we would be in violation of 15511, just like you all. But Friends of ASBA, our separate C4, has voted to endorse InvestNet and support that initiative. In fact, we actually signed on to an amicus brief to help get it on the ballot. I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has any, but if not, back to your officer team to wrap things up.
All right. Thank you, Lee. And thank all of you for joining me, the officers of the ASBA Board of Directors, Dr. Harrison Williams, and members of the amazing ASBA staff at this year's Navajo County meeting. Please look for an email with a link to the evaluation, the committee interest form, and links to join our caucus and alliances coming your way in the next day. I hope you'll have a wonderful rest of your evening, and thank you for joining us, and have a great rest of your week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Have a great night.
Hey, Tracy, can you hold on for a minute?
Yes, I sure can.
Okay, thanks.
Sheila? Sheila, can you hear me? This is Leroy. Is Sheila there yet?
She looks like she's still on, Leroy, but maybe she stepped away from her computer for a minute.
Oh, okay. All I was going to tell her was to tell her husband hello for me, and hopefully one day I'll get to see him again. And to the rest of you, ASBA staff and board members, I want to thank you for the work you do, and good luck in the future.
Leroy, thank you so much. Be well. We're going to miss you, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Tracy.
Yeah.
For some reason, I can't save the chat. Can you do that? Can you see?
Yeah, give me 1 second, Jules.
Oh, I think I just got it. Hang on. Yep, I got it.
I knew if I waited long enough, you would. Okay. Well, have a good night. I will see you tomorrow. Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay.